Hey, welcome back to Rust Tour Garage. It's already smoking hot out. It's not even 10 o'clock in the morning yet. It is time to get into engine and transmission for the 61 Rockbox Rambler, which is up on the lift so you can't see it. And what are we going to use? Well, decision has been made. Still back and forth, but decision has been made. Here's what we're going to go with. Now, before all the AMC guys curse me out, unsubscribe, and ban me for life, give me a minute. Remember what we're doing here. This is a awesome 1961 Rambler Classic wagon that was completely rotted out and would have been destined to be crushed into a Toyota if not somebody silly like me got a hold of it. So, does it matter what goes in it? Not in my mind. Plus the fact, I don't care. I'm going to use what I have because there's no reason to spend money where it's not needed. I have this on hand and it checks all the boxes. This is a 1996 LT1 350 with a T56 6-speed transmission on the back. And believe it or not, this was planned to go into the Rambler way before YouTube. Only did the question come about LS recently. This was always the engine I wanted to put into this engine and transmission package. Why? Well, few reasons. One, it's an easy 300 horsepower, more than enough for this car. It's got the 6-speed. A big reason is packaging. This is a nice compact unit. Low-rise intake manifold. If I use these exhaust manifolds, they're real tight, although I probably will not use them because they are the 96 up. They have a huge flange on them, which I don't like. But if I didn't throw out all of my other LT1 exhaust manifolds, I may use others. We'll see. Everything is very compact on this and should fit this smaller car nicely. At least that's the plan. The only question is going to be the AC compressor. With these clamshell type engine mounts, there's not a lot of room. I've done it before, but I may just make a completely different engine mount for the passenger side because it must have air conditioning. And the easiest way to do that is with the compressor in the factory location. The next thing is the general bad reputation of these engines. Now, for those of you who have not owned an LT1, I'm sure you've heard of the OptiSpark. The OptiSpark is basically a HEI distributor with an optical sensor and wheel mounted behind the water pump, which is the Achilles heel of this engine. Now, everybody says, OptiSpark's junk, OptiSpark is junk. Well, think about it this way. First off, the early Optis in 92 to 94, 92 in Corvette, 93 F-body, 94 F-body only, they were non-vented OptiSparks. So any ozone buildup in there and junk just stayed in there. There was no fresh air purge. In 94, F-body still had the bad Opti, I'll call it, but the B-body actually got the vented Opti. The vented Opti, which started in 94 and ran all the way to 97, I have never had a problem with one of those. They basically take fresh air into the Opti, into the cap and body, and then pull a vacuum on it from the engine and purge through to keep them cleaned out. Now think about this before you lose your mind on Optis, because everybody condemns the Opti. If you had an HEI distributor on a 350 engine, would you set it up on the engine and not touch it for 100,000 miles? No maintenance. Never pull the cap, never pull the rotor, never pull the wires, completely ignore it for 100,000 miles. Would you do that? No, you would not do that. But that's what happens with these OptiSparks because that's what they were designed to do. They were designed to last 100,000 miles, including the gear-driven water pump. So people condemn the Opti, but really, it's not such a terrible design, but the terrible design was where they mounted it because it gets no maintenance whatsoever. Now, that said, In 1996, because they went OBD2, the 1996 and 1997 engines have a crank sensor on them. Now, what that's going to allow me to do is convert this with basically no money to a 4X system, because it's a 4-tooth trigger wheel on that crank behind the timing cover. What that's going to allow me to do is eliminate the trigger mechanism of the OptiSpark, which is what has the problems, and just use the OptiSpark cap and rotor, just like any other distributor. That 4X crank sensor I'm going to use to trigger an LS PCM, which then lets you tune using HP tuners or Tuner Pro or any of that kind of stuff with an LS computer. There really are very few LT1 tuners anymore. LS tuners, everywhere. So that will allow the LS computer to run this engine, which takes away the OptiSpark, which is everybody's concern. Now, as an engine, these are great engines. They make a ton of low-end torque. They run great. They have another reputation of blowing head gaskets. Now, that only happens, in my experience, on the aluminum head engines. The solution to that is don't overheat it. It's just like a Honda or anything else. I remember back in the days working in a parts store, we had a machine shop, and all these 4-cylinder aluminum heads came in to get machined because they overheated the engine and warped the heads. Don't overheat it, and it shouldn't blow head gaskets. Okay, and then what happens is you get coolant in the oil, and even after you fix your head gaskets, you wipe the bearings because it's cool in the oil. So, big things with these engines. Keep them cool. I will put a 180-degree thermostat in these things. As factory, these things ran super hot. Fans didn't even come on to like 230 degrees. I'm going to change all that. Going to run a 180 thermostat. Electric fans will come on much earlier. I usually set them at like 190 for first stage, 195 for second stage, and they will just keep on cranking. As far as wear on these things, these are just like LS's. I've taken these things apart with a couple 100,000 miles on them, still see the crosshatch in his cylinders. They do not wear like old school small block 350s. And I think a lot of that is the fuel injection. They're just so much more efficient. Now, we are going to be running in batch fire mode, which won't affect anything. It's just not going to be sequential fuel injection. It's going to be bank. Each bank, I believe, fires individually. And I'm not going to run a MAF sensor on this either. I'm going to run a speed density tune. And we're going to go with that. Now, is this all going to fit in there? I think so. I think it will, just because it's very compact, but we're going to see. I'm going to have to take some of this stuff off, and some of this stuff we're not going to need. Like this is as removed from the car. It still has the electric air pump on it from the air injection system. That's all going to go away. In 96, I believe they changed the coil and the ICM. I have a 95 harness, so I'm probably going to have to dig up a 95 ICM and coil. I should have one laying around. And we're going to replace the water pump, and we're going to pull the injectors and test them, because this engine has been sitting, I don't even remember how long, at least 10 years. I just dug this out from way back in the corner of the building. It's been back there at least 10 years. I remember it. It was in a 1996 Formula with horrible paint, but it ran fantastic. So I'm hoping it'll still run fantastic in this car. So I hope that explains some things on why I'm using it. If you were starting from scratch, would I put an LT1 in something? No. Put a Vortec, put an LT1, an LS1, put a Vortec, something like that. They have much more aftermarket support and much more potential. The heads are so much better on the LS compared to these, but I don't care. All I need is 300 horsepower. We don't need to make a rocket ship out of this thing. It's already going to fly just because it's so light. There's nothing to it. So let's get started on this and see what we got. And another thing I wanted to say, which was very surprising to me, even though I had planned on using this engine and transmission in this build, I was really surprised when I asked how many people wanted to see this engine go in. That was very surprising. I figured it would be 100% LS1 to put in this setup. Other reasons that I didn't go with the LS. First off, the 6-liter with the cam, come on, that engine's it's over 400 horse. No problem. It's not needed for this car. This thing weighs nothing, and we can put it on a scale, you know, afterwards if I want to see how much it weighs, but there's nothing here. We don't need that engine. The all-aluminum LS1 and the 6-speed, I think that's a really good package for this. It's light. It's got this 6-speed, but I do have to change the oil pan because even though it has an F-body oil pan on it, I don't think it would clear in a G-body chassis. No big deal. Then you go a 302-1 or 2 oil pan, whatever would work. What else was part of the reasoning with that? The other thing is that nobody wants these. Nobody wants these. It's, you know, unless you have an LT1 powered car and you want a replacement engine, they're the only people who are going to buy these. So what am I going to do with it if I don't use it? Throw it in the scrapyard? Not happening. I can't throw things away that can be used. That's just too much of a waste. So what better to put it in here, and as long as it still runs all right after sitting for 10 years, and again, we'll have to check the injectors. That's probably the main thing I would think would have a problem. I think it's going to be good to go. Do I remember the oil pressure in it? Nope. Been too long. All I remember is it ran good. It's a wild card engine. All right, so here's a little information for the LT1. If you already know LT1s or really don't care, you know, fast forward. But for those of you like me who like to learn about things, whether you're going to use it or not, here's some information on these things. It's pretty interesting. These engines, obviously, they came out first in the Corvette in 1992. And then in 93, they went into the F-body. And then in 1994, they went into the B-body, which is the Caprices and the Roadmasters and such. The Corvettes came with aluminum heads. The F-bodies came with aluminum heads. And you can see the aluminum heads there. The B-bodies got iron heads. The OptiSpark is back here behind the water pump. And it's in, like I said, a bad location where it never sees maintenance, because when these engines are in the car, especially in the F-body, it's super tight and you have to take everything off of these things to get to it. One other neat thing about these engines is these are reverse cooled engines. The coolant actually goes through the heads first before it goes into the block. It was something that GM hadn't done on the small block before, and they actually got sued for it because I think they took somebody else's idea. And then on the LS, they went back to conventional. So that went away. These water pumps obviously are not belt driven. They're gear driven. There's a stub that you'll see because I'm going to pull the water pump, but it's in the back and drives a water pump. And the drive is a spline drive. And the whole idea of this was this water pump was designed to last 100,000 miles. And if you broke your belt, you didn't lose your cooling. You lost your charging and power steering, but your engine would still cool because the water pump is still being driven. So that's pretty neat. Air pump is actually electric on these, and there was actually a service bulletin that said that dealers could remove them because they were not needed for emissions. The engines ran clean enough that they weren't even needed. So that's pretty cool. The original 92, 93 LT1s are speed density. They had no MAF on them. 94, 95 got a MAF, but we're not going to run it. And like I said, in 96, 97, you got the crank trigger right there for misfire detection for OBD2, and we're going to use that to trigger the LS computer. Here's my little tag here. 96 Formula Black, LT1M6, 115,000 miles. That's all that was on it. And it just says, runs good on the other side. I got to start putting dates on these things because I have no idea how long this has been sitting here. But we're going to clean it up. I don't know if I can start it on this stand, but we're going to see how it works out. And just the last couple LT1 things before we start cleaning it up. Obviously, we have a low-rise intake. Somebody painted it red. It's not an LT4 engine. LT4s had red intakes, but they also had different cylinder heads. Somebody just painted this, and we are going to take it off and clean it up. EGR is mounted on the back. That's all going to go away. We'll get rid of that. Obviously, we have our T56 6-speed here. DLK is the tag code. We have solenoids in this back. This is for reverse lockout. That will be wired up. This is for CAGs, which is broken, otherwise known as skip shift. I'm not going to need that, so I don't care about that. The LT1 used an external slave cylinder, unlike the LS that used the hydraulic throwout bearing. Otherwise, it's kind of the same setup. A master and a reservoir, same as 3rd gen. I think that's about all to talk about that you'll care about. Engine mount setup is a little different, but traditional small block Chevy mounts will bolt right up to this block. And this is a 96. I think they have only 1 knock sensor on the F body. The B body got 2 of them, from what I remember. But yeah, just 1 knock sensor on the F body. And yeah. These exhaust manifolds are up and over design. They work really well. But I don't think we'll be using them just because, I said 96, 97, they have this huge flange. And these are not cast steel that I know of like an LS. I don't think you can easily weld those. All right, that's enough of the information. I don't think you need to know anymore unless you're putting one in. There's still more to know. But that's good enough for now. All right. First thing, gonna take some of this stuff off of here. Right away, this air injection stuff can all go, because that's going in the garbage. We're not gonna be using an air pump. And we still have power steering fluid in the pump there. So this has a pump, and vacuum lines we're not going to need, and I'm going to have to get a rag or something for that. I've got a bracket here for the air pump I got to get off. Ooh, that's tight. Hold on here. Got to stand up for this one. Wow. Somebody didn't want that coming off. Holy smokes. And there's one down there too. It's been years since I touched an LT1, so I'm gonna have to remind myself how this stuff comes apart. Wow. Wow, somebody really didn't want this stuff coming off. Probably better if I switch to a 1/2-inch drive rather than this 3/8 stuff, but shouldn't be that tight. All right, what do we got? A bolt in the back. All right, let's get the plug wires off. Put them back on later. I want to get all this stuff out of the way first. This is a OptiSpark vent hose. Are we going to run this with the Opti? I guess I could. I could start it with the OptiSpark first, and then start it with the LS tune, just to make sure it works. I don't know, we'll figure it out. All right, so that stuff's out of the way. Now let's get the water pump off. So 6 bolts. And I have to try not to make too much of a mess. I think this still has coolant in it. So to get the drain pan. All right, got a drain pan. Let's get this water pump off of here. It's been off before because it has RTV on the bolts. You do need to seal the threads, but this is not factory sealant. This is somebody going overboard. Usually this bottom bolt will leak coolant. Nope. I may have drained it already. Let's see. That's not going to come out yet. Oh, man, too much RTV. It's just not needed. Use I like to use Permatex #2. Non-hardening sealer on threads. Works great, doesn't make a mess like this. All right, here comes the water pump. They're a little scummy there from coolant sitting in it. That's not good. Wow, that stuff just gelled right up. That must be old green stuff. Wow, we may have to run some Blue Devil or something through this, because that's bad. That's completely plugged. All right, that, I am not gonna lie, that is concerning. That water pump was completely plugged up here. And you can see all that, what the antifreeze just turned to, like junk. And it was all in the bottom. It looks like, I mean, there's no antifreeze in the engine anymore, obviously, but hopefully it didn't do anything to rot the head gaskets. I think what I'm gonna have to do is, once this is in the car, run straight water in it first and just make sure there's good flow, and maybe put some Blue Devil cleaner in it, because that stuff works really good for breaking down plugged up antifreeze. Just in case, because I don't want to lose the head gaskets from the coolant rotting them out, that's for sure. But it doesn't look like there's anything up top. Unless it all just rotted and it's all solid in there right now. I don't see anything. Could be interesting. Hopefully this engine isn't junk, but we'll move forward with it and see what happens. All right, just because I'm paranoid, I just pulled the thermostat out of the water pump, because that is above where all the gunk was, and it looks brand new. And it's actually a 180, so somebody replaced it. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't like anywhere maybe coolant residue was, that it didn't gunk things up, and this looks brand new, so that's good to see. So I'm hoping that everything in the heads then is all good, and maybe I just have some junk right there, or maybe some junk in the block off to clean out. All right, now we'll move forward. Let's get the belt off and the front accessories off of the passenger side. All right, let's get the belt off. There. Get the tensioner off. Everything's really tight on this thing. I don't know why, but it is. All right. All right, 3 bolts for that. that out of there. All right, we'll get the alternator off. All right, now I'll get the power steering pump off. And all this stuff has to come off to get the front accessory bracket off. Can't leave anything on. But at least it's not that bad to get it apart. You get a better look at this side of the Opti. The plug wires go behind the accessory bracket, which makes it a real chore to replace the wires in the car with all the accessories on. Oh, there's one more. Missed one. Let's see. All right, now you can get this. This was the air injection pipe going in the garbage. Throw that out. And we're almost done stripping this thing down. All right, I just started checking the bolts on this exhaust manifold, and we're missing bolts. So I hope I don't have any broken bolts. These are not like LS1s. You don't ever find broken bolts in the heads on these. I'm hoping somebody just didn't put them in. Let's see. These gaskets are new. Hopefully nothing's stripped. That feels good. That one I may have to run a tap through. Feels all right. All right, so at least there's no broken bolts in there. And look at, geez, this spark plug's falling out. Wow. Wow. Okay. I ran this engine. It ran great. But again, these engines, when they're in the car, are tough to do maintenance on. I'm going to pull all the plugs just to check them. And yeah, these wires are shot, but maybe they'll work just for the initial startup. All right, more surprises. This engine has been apart before because the heads have been off. The same RTV is on the head bolts. Again, not needed. You can use the Permatex number 2 on the threads and it doesn't make a mess. This has RTV all coming out from under the head bolts. Plugs are dry, a little black, like soot, but not burning oil, just like it was running rich. They're all the same. I checked all the exhaust bolt threads. I ran a tap through the one just to clean it up. They're all good. This spark plug, even though the plug was loose. The threads are good, so it didn't blow the threads out, so that's good. All right, so I guess we've figured out that this is not all original for sure. You just get the engine mount off. I'll go to the other side and get plugs out on that side, exhaust manifold on that side, the mount off on that side, and then we'll be ready to get ready for mock-up. More surprises on this side of the engine. Looks like only one head gasket was done, because this side, the head bolts do not have any RTV on them. It had a different exhaust manifold gasket, and it has different spark plugs, they're old. So it looks like they only did all the repair work on one side of the engine, and this side is original. Not sure why you would only do one, but that's what they did. All right, it's about time to fly this thing in here and see if it'll even fit. So I put on some clamshell mounts. Keep in mind, they are not all the same. In fact, I couldn't even find, with a quick search anyway, what the correct part number is for clamshells for a G-body, for like a Monte Carlo Super Sport. I couldn't find them. But I did find that the clamshells I had laying around were from a 3rd Gen F body, at least that's what the part numbers said. And I can get you one here. They're different part numbers for left and right. This is the right side. So this is the passenger side mount that I'm using. 14039-436. And then for the driver's side, I am using, if I can get you, this guy. 334971. They are different heights. And the reason for that is, I don't know if you can tell from under the car, but the tunnel is actually offset. The engine is not perfectly centered. The engine is offset to the passenger side, and those mounts are also offset, and that's what's used. So I'm hoping they'll fit. If they don't, we'll figure something out, but we'll get them in there. The other thing is, I have this handy dandy G-Force or knockoff G-Force transmission crossmember, which is cool because factory G-body transmissions were never set up for dual exhaust, so you had to have an aftermarket or make your own. Problem is, it has to be slid back quite a bit. Now over here, somebody welded in a piece of angle iron, and actually that would work to bring the crossmember back. But I don't know if they ever did anything with it because this side doesn't have anything. So if I want to bring this crossmember back further, I've got to fabricate something over here to hold it or change that mount. I'm going to figure that out. But for now, I'm going to have to just take it out of here. Same with this factory drive shaft loop. We get that out of here so it's out of the way. So let me remove the crossmember and this, get the car down, and we're going to see what happens. All right, cross member's out. Drive shaft loop is out. And, man, these guys just couldn't do anything right. This piece of angle iron that they welded in here to make an extension for the cross member, look, it's a 1/4 inch higher than the frame. It doesn't work. You can't slide the cross member back on that. So I'm going to have to cut that out and redo it, make it work. All right, time to fly. I got it lifted up a little bit. I am sweating to death out here. It is hot. Holy smokes. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to try to get it in. This thing is at a pretty extreme angle. Get this in without killing myself here. Now the car, of course, I think is too low to clear. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see here. Will the legs go under? Huh, they do clear. Okay, that's cool. This is gonna have to fly over that. We are at such an extreme angle. You have to get the jack under the transmission. Let me see here. This is not what I wanted as far as angles go. Let's see. The transmission to hit the floor jack. Well, it's a good thing I made that tunnel. All right, we are not there yet. I got to put the jack under the trans. This engine has to come back quite a bit. Let me get the angle, get the transmission up and see if the angle changes. That angle is no good. Still got to come back quite a bit. Let me see if I can get the transmission up and get it further back. All right. Whew, man, I am dying out here. All right, I'm removing the clamshells because I don't think they're going to work. I have a feeling the engine is going to be forward more than it used to be, or at least in this chassis anyway. Not necessarily a problem. Probably just have to make new mounts. And I may have to remove the actual isolators from the frame to get an idea of what we're doing here. I'm going to try just to remove the clamshells first and see if I can get the engine low enough to see where it's going to be, where it wants to be. We should have plenty of room, even if the engine is forward a little bit. And I don't think it's going to be much, but you know, even a ½ inch is going to make the mounts not work. let's see. All right. Clamshells are off. See if I can lower this down a little bit more. Back. There. See if I can raise the transmission. I got to get underneath and see if the transmission is hitting anything, because it doesn't seem like it's going up very easy, and should be plenty of room. It might just be the shifter hitting the floor. Whew. All right, so right now the engine's just sitting on the chassis. It's wedged against the firewall. I'm going to try to fly the car and see if I can get a look underneath and see if it's just a matter of I need to cut a hole for the shifter to come through, or the whole tunnel has to get moved, because that could be the case too. Let's get it in the air, see how bad it looks. All right, welcome to the world of dicey engine installs. So I have this thing sitting on a block of wood right now just to get a little bit of oil pan clearance. I don't know if the engine is centered or not, okay? I'm just winging it here. Underneath the transmission, the shifter right now is the limiter. But, you know, if I guesstimate and center that shifter, I think I'm just gonna cut a hole in the floor and get it so I can raise the transmission up, and then I'm gonna have to see if I have to cut the whole tunnel and raise it, because I've had to do that just about every time. I've had to raise the tunnel a full inch or so to get what I need for height. And man, I'm wondering if I should just cut it out now and not even bother. But let me see. I'll get the hole cut. Let me see a couple of measurements here and see if I think I have enough height without raising the tunnel. All right, well, I didn't record that because I didn't want sparks flying at the camera, but I cut a hole in the floor that I have to make a little bit bigger, which is fine. And amazingly, we're actually looking pretty good. This is hard for you to see, I know. I've got to, of course, check driveline angle and stuff. But, man, I have a lot of room up there. I wonder if I didn't need to get rid of my heater. Wow. Huh. I bet I could have kept the factory heater. But I don't know yet. You see how close the engine is on these pads? I think the clamshells will actually work, but I've got to get the engine in the air and see what it looks like. If I could save my factory heater, should I cut that out of the other parts car and put that metal back in? There's an awful lot of room up there. We gotta look at that. All right, back down on the ground, sort of. It's in the air a little bit, so the hoist will get underneath the chassis there. Boy, I am fading. It is so hot out. Position. I don't know if I'm centered exactly yet. And according to the mount bosses, I think it has to come back a little bit. I don't have a whole lot of room. This side is getting close. And it looks like I need to come back another ½ inch, and that might be all I have. Although I could modify that section of the firewall and cut that out to get a little bit more. Because if I can make the clamshells work, well, that's the best option. I'm going to put the hoist on, lift it up, and see if the clamshells will get in there. All right, let's see if we can look out here. I think I'm going to have to cut the firewall a little bit. But man, if I can keep my factory heater, I'll put the firewall back to flat steel and keep my original heater. Oh no! Let's not do that. I have the transmission sitting on the piece of metal that I called the drive shaft loop. So that's not good. Let me get the jack under the transmission. There we go. Now, let's see. Is this going to fit? Guess what? The clamshells will not work, but it's okay. We're going rogue. Here's what we're going to do. All right, you know what? Change of plans. The clamshells are not going to work. They're really close, but they're not going to work. So, time to just treat this as a custom build, which is what it is. I'm going to put the engine where I want it, which is somewhere around where it is right now. It's real close. The main thing with the Chevy engines, pretty much all of them, small, big block, LS, whatever, is the passenger side head is further back than the driver's side head. So that's going to be the gauge for clearance, and I like to leave some room, you know, so at least you can get your hand back there if you had to. I'm not big on being able to see something but not put your hand on it. It drives me crazy when I'm trying to work on something, when I cannot get a tool on something but I can see exactly where I need to be. So we're going to put the engine where I want it. I'm going to make my own clamshells. I'm going to make my own custom clamshells to put the engine where I need it. We'll get it leveled up. We'll get it centered in the car. We'll get the transmission centered in the tunnel. We'll get the drive line angle set to about 3 degrees, which is what I want. Right now I have, you see in the dark in there, there's the shifter coming through the floor. It looks like I'm not going to have to raise the tunnel. That's fantastic if that turns out to be the case. And also, I'm going to undo some of this in here. Once the engine and transmission are set, I'm going to cut that piece of tunnel out that I put back in, put a flat piece of steel back in the firewall, and see if I can get my factory air plenum back into position. This will work fine. The engine looks like it's going to be, you know, what, half-inch forward more than it was in the G-body chassis, which actually may help me because that's probably all the clearance I need to get my AC compressor to fit in the factory location. It's not much, and that may be enough to make it happen. So, that's the next thing. But that's going to be on the next video. Yes, it's going to have to wait because I'm wiped out. It's 1,000,000 degrees out. My clothes are just hanging on me, just soaked with sweat. It's nasty out. So I'm glad this is going to work. It is going to work. It's not going to be a big deal to make our own mounts. It's just going to be another custom build. Once that's sitting in there, you know, we'll take a look at exhaust. We'll take a look at the steering. We'll make sure everything's going to be happy before we mount it for sure, because you have to take all that in consideration. And I think I'm going to be able to get my plenum back for the air. So that's cool. It's no big deal that I cut it out. It was just flat steel. We can fix it. No big deal at all. It looks good in there. I think it's going to work nice. So hopefully those of you who wanted the LS or wanted me to put an AMC 343, hey, I would have put a 401 in there if someone wants to give me something with a Go package to cut up. Like, that's going to happen. Hope you guys aren't too upset with me. It's still going to be a cool car, even if it does have a boring Chevy engine in it. It's what I have. It is what it is. So, can't help you. Sorry. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for following this ridiculous project and watching me getting overheated. And thank you so much for subscribing. We will see you on the next one soon. Later.